after 286 days and more than 4,500 laps around Earth.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams finally made it home. The two NASA astronauts arrived at the International Space Station in June last year.
They had a great ride.
For what was meant to be an 8-day stay. But the capsule they were set to ride home in was deemed unsafe. So they spent the next 9 months stuck at the ISS.
So it adds a little different perspective.
But what does this amount of time in space do to someone's body?
Astronauts are some of the most extraordinary individuals. They're almost all incredibly fit, so mostly marathon runners. These are the best of the best, and they spend years training to be astronauts. You start as an incredible athlete and you come back essentially almost like an old age pensioner. It's a huge impact on the body. It is kind of like an accelerated aging.
This is Professor Alan Duffy, an astronomer from Swinburne University of Technology.
So when Suni and Butch first returned to Earth, they were incredibly weak. They also don't have a sense of balance, and that's because they haven't walked in 9 months. Their inner ear is completely unfamiliar to that sensation of the direction of gravity. It means that they are really unstable and they have to regain their land legs, as astronauts put it.
Here on Earth, a lot of our strength is maintained when we work against the force of gravity in our everyday movements, like walking, sitting, or standing. But from the moment they're in space, an astronaut's body isn't up against the same amount of force. So before they go anywhere, developing their cardio, muscle mass, and bone density is a major focus in their preparation.
There's still gravity. The space station goes around the Earth because there is the gravity of our planet holding onto it, but everything is falling freely, what we say as microgravity. If you've ever jumped off a high board in the diving pool, or maybe more adventurous, going and diving out of a plane, you get that sensation of weightlessness. So without the everyday experience of gravity, when you're in orbit, your muscles decay, and particularly your bone density decreases. Your bones are thinning out. And they're doing that about 1 or 2% a month. So by the time you're up there for 9 months, they've lost 1/5 to 1/10 of the bone density. That's equivalent to 7 to 10 years worth of aging for old age pensioners. We also have this on Earth if you're bedridden. So if you've had an accident, you're stuck in bed in hospital for months or in a coma, your body wastes away as well. It's probably one of the main reasons we can't have astronauts up there for much longer than a year, is because we're worried about them never recovering back on Earth and having health conditions for the rest of their lives.
To try and limit how much bone and muscle strength they lose, astronauts exercise for hours every day, using specially designed machines at the ISS.
They're doing resistance training and pulling rubber bands, or they're pushing with their legs against springs. You also have cardiovascular, so you want to keep your fitness up, and that usually means a Peloton-like bike where you're just spinning that around.
Right now, gravity is pulling the fluids in my body from my head to my feet. But if I was to go into orbit, those fluids would mainly just hang around my head and impact what's going on up here.
It would swell my sinuses, so my nose. It would feel like I had a cold. I couldn't smell or taste. So on the space station, the astronauts really don't enjoy their food. There's just no smell or taste from it. So they put chili sauce on everything. It's the only thing that they can actually taste. Even your eyes begin to change, where the pressure in your eyeballs, that defines the shape, that changes when in orbit without that force of gravity. And it means a lot of the astronauts end up having to wear glasses when they're on board the space station.
On top of this, getting sick in space is a little more complicated than getting sick on Earth. Up there, infections are harder to treat and our immune system doesn't work as well.
It's not actually clear why. It could be that we're just not getting the cells or the white blood cells flushing around our body as we would be used to on Earth, or there could be changes in the way we breathe or blood supply flows. Even worse, bacteria becomes more potent. So in microgravity, the cells essentially begin to grow as clumps. They don't spread out on the surface, they grow in balls. Bacteria essentially have a shell around them that present a barrier to our medicines treating them.
One of the benefits, depending on how you look at it, is space can make you a little bit taller.
So without the force of gravity pulling on you, your body begins to relax. And in fact, particularly your spine begins to relax, and the jelly, if you will, between the bones of your spine get to push out a little bit, and you actually can grow. Your height, you are becoming slightly taller. We're not talking massive, I'm 6 foot, maybe I'll get to 6'1". The problem is, of course, as soon as you come back to Earth and you're pulled by the gravity, your spine compresses again and you go back to your normal height, I'm afraid.
After a long-term space mission, like what Suni and Butch have just experienced, all of these changes don't just miraculously reverse themselves as soon as you touch back down to Earth, apart from shrinking back down to your normal height. It can take months, if not years, of rehab with physiotherapists and doctors before an astronaut's body gets back to normal. So you might be thinking, with the loss of strength, sinus issues, compromised immune system, and accelerated aging, why would anyone want to head up to space and push their body to the absolute limit?
Astronauts are explorers. When you're in space, that's such a profound experience. There's a psychological term for it called the overview effect. Many of these astronauts, they're changed, they're fundamentally changed. They come back, they feel a greater connection to the world and its people. By getting to go to space, they can understand more about human health, but they also can champion for a better life for all of us here on Earth. And that's fundamentally what space travel is about. It's not about going out there so much as better understanding here.